and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by the man in charge of emergency Russian World Cup Stadium redesign. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Nail a few boards on there. That's probably going to get it done.
Just add a giant bleacher.
I can't get over. I saw a post on Reddit the other day that was like, "This is how the local carnival rigged up their roller coaster," and it was like on like a bunch of different unevenly balanced bricks. That can't be as good as a World Cup stadium. That's not allowed. That should not be the same level of engineering.
So if you haven't seen this is an actual 2018 World Cup stadium in Ekaterinburg, as I definitely knew and didn't have to look at my paper.
The pause might have given you away a little bit.
It didn't meet, and the hesitant pronunciation, it didn't meet the minimum seating requirements for a World Cup game. So they just kind of like carved out a bit and just added a gigantic bleacher. I'm not convinced if you sit at the top end of that bleacher that you can actually see the field.
Yeah, no, almost certainly not.
You're looking at the outer ring of concrete.
Yeah, I think
obstructed view is what it says on your ticket.
Probably not a lot of thought given to whether or not people can actually see anything. More so, can we just get the minimum number of people in that are required?
But that's not our biggest worry about the 2018 World Cup this weekend, is it, Taylor?
No, it is not.
Our biggest worry is making sure that the United States of America's men's national team gets to the World Cup. And to do so, they're going to have to go through Panama and Trinidad.
Yep.
So the big game is this Friday night. The US hosts Panama in Orlando. We are 1 point behind Panama in fourth place in the playoff spot. They're in third place in the go directly to the World Cup spot.
Yep.
A point ahead of us. It is, I think Matt Doyle in his preview said, it's not must-win, but it's kind of must-win.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, because Panama are going to be looking for the draw. A draw is good enough to get them to the next game. If they win that game, they're clear and away, and it's completely in their hands. If they lose this game, it's in the United States' hands, and that's what you want if you're trying to avoid an intercontinental playoff.
Yep. So, yeah, there was the Syria-Australia game happened today, the first leg of the Asian playoff to go into that.
Yep.
I hope I never have to watch that game for reference. Because we'll be watching that game for research if the US is in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I want to go directly to the World Cup.
But congratulations to Syria for the 1-1 draw at home, quote unquote. And now they'll go to Sydney for the return leg. I'm guessing that will be slightly more difficult for them.
So this is our Total Soccer Show USA Panama preview extravaganza. We're going to talk a lot about what we hope, what we think, what the US might do and why. But first, we have to lay the groundwork. We have to talk about Panama.
Let's do it.
Okay. I want to start us off by saying there's a lot of talk about how this is a big game for the United States. This game is huge for Panama.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at the possible starters, the ones that we think will be there, 5 or 6 of them were around when Graham Zusi effectively eliminated them from World Cup contention for 2014. So you think about it from that perspective, and suddenly not only is it a chance for them to go to their first World Cup ever, it's also it's also sort of their ability, their first opportunity to really revenge that elimination.
To revenge.
Yeah, man.
I think it's avenge.
The revengeing.
The revengeing. Yeah, that's probably what they call it.
To revenge and aside, I believe it is.
So, such a big game for them. How are they going to go about accomplishing a result here? I know the answer.
Defense.
Yes. So if you look...
That's it, right? We're ready to move on?
Yeah,
no more talk? Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, what's the stat? They've conceded 5 goals.
In the Hex. Yeah.
In the Hex. And they've mostly done it... Like, we went back and watched a lot of footage. They essentially play either a 4-4-2 or a 4-5-1, but it kind of doesn't matter because what they do is sit kind of deep. They have 2 defensive midfielders in front of their back 4. They don't really commit many men forward, and they kind of challenge you to come at them, and then they hit you on the counter.
Yes. Can I add one quick thing? Because that's all very important information. But I want to say something about that 5 goals conceded because it kind of annoys me. Because what people aren't saying is that they've conceded the joint second fewest behind Mexico, tied with Costa Rica. So they're in third in the Hex. The other 2 teams ahead of them, same standing. I'm just saying it's not like this crazy unprecedented thing that's happened.
True. No, that's true. But it's telling because I haven't looked at how many goals Mexico and Costa Rica have scored. But I think Panama have only scored about 7 goals.
Yeah.
So it's really built on a lot of 1-0 wins and 1-1 draws.
There it is.
Right? So it's a lot of narrow wins by sitting deep and then breaking on the counter.
Yep.
So that's the challenge for the United States, right? It's going to be to break down that Panamanian defense without leaving the back door open and have lots of Panamanians run through it.
Yes. And
and
so
Tim Howard.
And another part of how they've gotten here, how they've been able to get the results is when they are home against weaker opponents, more of a 4-3-3, a little bit more attacking.
Yeah.
Guessing that will not be the case on Friday evening.
No, I mean, not at all. So, yeah, we're one of the tougher opponents.
Yep.
It's a must-win game, or at least a must-not-lose game for Panama. I can guarantee they will sort of hold back and try and tempt us forward, and then they'll be looking for ways to exploit.
Yeah, but even like if this game had happened, say we play them in the second game of the Hex, I think they are even more likely to attack then. Like I could even see them really not trying to break so much, at least in the first half, because you don't want to then get countered on the counter. Like I could see, because in the early stages of qualification, you don't know what's going to happen. Maybe a point is good enough, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
In this situation, a point is absolutely good enough.
A reminder, they are already 1 point ahead of us with just 2 games to go, including this one. So, yeah, a draw is very much good because it keeps us at bay.
All this is to say, U.S. fans, prepare yourselves to be frustrated because you're going to be frustrated. Yep.
So should we talk about who the
Sure.
key Panamanian players are? So I did do a podcast with Neil Blackman yesterday.
It was good.
We went through a lot of Panamanian players,
We did.
but we also have some thoughts of our own. So obviously I recommend going back and listening to that show, but let's build on what we talked about there.
Okay, that works for me. Well, since you did it, why don't you start with the building? Why don't you, if anybody missed it, if anybody didn't listen all the way through, should we run through really quickly what we kind of roughly expect to see from Panama in terms of formation and lineup?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say a 4-4-2 is likely and a 4-5-1 is likely.
Yeah.
It's kind of a 50-50 toss-up. But I'm also going to argue it doesn't matter which one it is because neither signifies more attacking intent because they're going to sit back either way.
Yes.
If we're just talking about yesterday's show, the one thing we didn't talk about is, or the one player that wasn't mentioned who definitely should have been mentioned, is who I am now convinced is going to play right back.
Yep.
It's Adolfo Mercado, right? I hope it's Murillo, like we talked about yesterday. If it's him, then I'm celebrating an hour before kickoff because I think that's a really good sign the US can really go at him.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Mercado, who is a centre-back, but he plays right back for Panama, which gives you a real sign of their intent, right?
And has played there previously in qualifying. I think he played there against Mexico, did Machado, so I'm thinking he'll probably be there. The other question mark I have is who's at left back, but maybe we can get to that in a second.
Well, the other thing I want to say about Machado is he definitely played there in the game where Panama hosted the United States because it was Machado's long throw from which Panama scored their equalizers. We were kind of scarred by this long throw at the time. This is where the sort of perfect Bruce Arena starts. The rail, it didn't come off the rails, but the train started to wobble a little bit, right? Because we'd just beaten Honduras 6-0. We'd just gone 1-0 up. There was Jermaine Jones through ball. Christian Pulisic beat both central defenders. He beat Beloy and Torres, squared it to Clint Dempsey. US is 1-0 up away to Panama. We can start booking tickets to Russia already. Then suddenly there's the Machado long throw. It bounces off Tim Ream, and I think it's Gomez, the defensive midfielder, scores. So look out for those long throws.
Yes.
By which I mean head them away.
Yeah, and that will be the responsibility likely of the centre backs, two or three. We're not sure which.
I'll take anyone. Yeah. Anyone who can get their head to it rather than Tim Ream knocking it down to a Panamanian midfielder.
Yeah, and then you and Neil, speaking of centre backs, agreed that it would probably be Torres and Beloy starting at the heart of the defence for Panama.
And I think the quick summary of what we thought is very good in the air. If we're going to serve in a bunch of crosses, they will happily head them away all day and then laugh in our faces.
Yep.
So we're better off sort of trying to get the ball on the floor and use our pace in dribbling and passing combinations to try and get past them. Maybe later in the show we talk about our US lineups. We'll think of ways we can make that happen. Yeah.
Yep, and then we've got, Avaye or Davis at left back?
Yeah.
We're not sure which one it will be, but either way, again, expect defensive resolution. Is what I'm going to go with.
Resolution, yeah. High-def resolution.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
The other kind of high-def.
Yep.
And as we said before, 2 defensive midfielders, right? So Gabriel Gomez, who scored against us in March, but is really just sort of a proper defensive midfielder, kind of an old head. And then Anibal Godoy is the more sort of, I want to say box to box because he's capable of that, but he's really going to be more like sitting in front of his own box. And
exactly.
There's a threat that he goes box to box on the counter. But what I've really seen with Panama is when they do counter, they're very clever about not sending multiple numbers forward, right? It'll be like the 2 wingers and the 2 forwards, and the 2 central midfielders will mostly hold.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the Spanish is for empty bucket, but that is the plan.
I'm not even going to try because it's probably going to be offensive. So you've got the two of them.
Why would it be offensive?
Oh, because I feel like I could make something up and it'd be totally wrong, but then maybe it comes off as like a horrible curse and I didn't realize it. There is the possibility that Gomez sits even deeper and they're in more of a 4-1-4-1 with maybe Armando Cooper coming in central and you've got kind of a 3-man midfield.
Yeah.
Either way, again, very defensive is
Very
what you're going to see, but also very technical. They are capable, of those three players, of moving the ball around, keeping possession, not just panicking and hoofing it long.
Yeah.
That is the big transition I know you and Neil talked about as well from previous Panama teams to this one. It's less about like get it long, have some CONCACAF-ery, and see what Blas Perez can do. It's more about punish the opponent when the opportunity presents itself.
Yep, and you look at someone like Quintero, he can really dribble at you. I rewatched again the March game. Quintero gets around Graham Zusi more than once.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. On the other wing, it could be Barcenas, who is very good at sort of getting to the end line, getting a cross in. So that would be a challenge for, say, Villafana in this game. I'm more confident about Quintero versus, say, Yedlin, by the way. Again, we'll get to that later.
Yep.
If it's not Barcenas and it's Cooper, then I think that's less of an attacking problem, but it means even more defending from Panama.
Right.
Yeah.
And then up top, who are you thinking you'll see there?
If it's one forward, I'm thinking it's Gabi Torres because he's so quick that he's really going to hit you on the counter. Just ask Trinidad and Tobago.
Right.
We just rewatched that goal before we hit record, right? That is a goal where he sort of just runs in a straight line and like dodges left and right, lifts it over someone's head, puts it around the other side of someone, and then runs straight at the keeper. He goes, I want to say coast to coast.
Yeah.
Box to box.
More or less,
and scores. So I think Gabi Torres probably, definitely maybe starts. I qualified it a little bit, but I'm pretty confident.
Because, I mean, you do have Blas Perez, and then the more likely one to Blas Perez would be Luis Tejada.
That's what I think.
But I think you're
the
right.
old guys brigade.
Yeah, but I think Gabi Torres, those come in maybe if it's like 1-0 United States and you're chasing it near the end, then maybe Panama bring him on.
I think Tejada might start because sometimes I think if they run out of passing options, I see that they go direct to Tejada and he can maybe get a flick on.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like the option for a flick on. I don't think Perez starts, but I do think they use him off the bench to come and scare you. I mean, Blas Perez is like the guy that people tell stories about, right? He's like the monster that people tell stories about, and everybody's scared when they see him coming off the bench. Blas is going to get you.
I'm inclined to believe that Torres starts up top by himself, and basically they use him as an outlet when they need to, and then eventually when he tires, say if it is 0-0 late in the game, or if it is the United States up 1-0, you see Blas Perez come on, maybe Tejada come on as well, but Blas Perez specifically because either he can, as I said, CONCACAF you and get that away goal, get that very important equalizing goal.
He can win a bunch of free kicks.
Or he can win a bunch of free kicks, or he just knows how to CONCACAF. And I apologize for using that word like 7 times, but you know what I mean.
You're going to define it if you're going to keep using
that,
it.
Like, well, it's just the ability.
We may have new listeners who've never been CONCACAF.
The ability, I mean, it's a nicer way of saying, like, borderline cheating, or it's gamesmanship,
bit
or
of time wasting. Winning
Yeah.
free kicks, I think, is a good example.
Yeah, but he'll come in
maybe
and
a couple of elbows to defenders.
Exactly, but have those moments because, again, as I said, expect this to be a frustrating game. If it is 0-0 at halftime, I expect time wasting to start as soon as the second half begins, probably even before the first half ends, because Panama are going to want to slow it down, frustrate the United States, keep them out of a rhythm, not let them establish anything going forward, and I think gamesmanship plays a big part of that.
And to that end, just to sort of visualize this for people, again, whatever the formation is, 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, you will see them in a very sort of almost synchronized swimmers, organized shape, where they will sort of shuffle left and right and forwards and backwards, but will really maintain a pretty compact shape and just won't give you gaps to run into. That's what's going to be frustrating. That's also the problem that the United States has to solve. Right. They have to find some space somewhere. They'll give you some out wide because they want you to cross, so Roman Torres can laugh in your face and head it away, and Beloy can laugh in your face and head it away. So the goal is to find some space between their defensive midfield, between their right mid and their centre mid. You've got to try and find a gap, get in there, start working the ball around in there.
Yeah, and the other the thing that compounds that problem is that against teams who are maybe playing for a draw, like if you're just playing club soccer and the team maybe wants a draw, you can sort of pull them out a little bit more, right? You can have that little bit of possession. Maybe the forward just steps up a little bit to try to put you under pressure. Maybe the midfielder follows suit. Suddenly now there are some holes. But against Panama, who absolutely are not going to want to concede a goal, there's no real motivation for them to step out. They're okay with the center backs passing the ball around near midfield, probably even 40 yards from goal or 35 yards from goal. But they are not going to let anybody have time and the ability to be open and receive passes, inside that distance.
I mean, is there a way we can tempt them out?
I don't know. Omar Gonzalez can tell funny jokes. I don't know. The only thing I'll say,
like, knock, who's there, and just give the first line.
I'll tell you more.
And then maybe Annabelle Godot will be like, oh, I've got to hear the rest of this. I'm going to have to go and ask him.
Great. Yes.
And then Pulisic can dart into that spot.
Yes, Annabelle Godot, a famed knock joke enthusiast. No, I did see some people speculating that maybe Panama will take a page out of what some CONCACAF opponents have done and recognize that the United States struggles when put under pressure, and maybe they'll
what do you mean by put under pressure?
As in, like, the United States doesn't do well when they're pressed, and so maybe like Panama could vary the attack or like vary their approach and do like 20 minutes of sitting back, 5 minutes of aggressive pressing to see if they can catch the United States.
Do you think like not enough teams do that? Like,
what?
Just 5 minutes of concentrated pressing that's a huge surprise to everybody, and no one, you don't expect it.
I think
it's like a quick Spanish Inquisition.
I think the reason why clubs don't is because it's very difficult, because that requires a lot of coordination. That requires basically something a club team could do because they have more time. National teams less so. I also think then I think that like if Panama were to do that, then maybe that's the opportunity where the United States can draw them out a little bit or play into that. But I don't think they're going to do that. No, I think they're going to sit.
Maybe if you see Gomez do like a giddy up signal and then they all press. Yep. But that is not going to happen because that would just make them vulnerable for 5 minutes, yeah?
Are Panama 6-year-olds in our mind? What are we doing? It's not jokes and like horsies? Come on now. Well, it's
just because I know that I'm basically joking because I know there's no way that they're actually going to come out, right? So it's got to be kind of a silly, fantastical image to even make it possible.
So if we were doing the like pre-game things to watch for, if you're the United States, what do you pay attention to? Or if you're a fan, what are you preparing yourself for? I would say, as I said, prepare to be frustrated, both because I think they're going to be ultra defensive. There's going to be some of the gamesmanship. And I think the United States are going to have some opportunities that maybe they don't look as good, or they squander a chance here or miss a chance there. I think you got to be ready for that. I think you should expect Panama to be highly organized. And, so the United States will have to find a way around that. And I think to your point earlier, you have to worry about that threat of the long throw from Machado.
Yes. Head it away. Head it away.
Because they're going to take those chances. They are that type of team who, if you give them that long throw opportunity, if you've been pushing forward, and that is the other kind of like thing that people don't talk about that much, but if you're the team that is on the offensive for the 90 or for 89 minutes, you're not in that defensive mindset. And suddenly if you're pressed into a situation where you're defending a set piece at the very end of the game, it can be that mental switch that can be a problem. So you don't want to give Panama any leeway there.
I've also seen that Machado throw be not just an offensive weapon, as in he can throw it from the sideline into the 6-yard box, which is, it can be dangerous, especially when you do it well like Panama do. But it's also like a weapon of just getting the ball down the line quickly, right? I've seen him take a throw at right back and clear the halfway line, and suddenly Armando Cooper's got a lot of space, or Baseñas has a lot of space, and they've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, because
it's a good way to get 10 yards.
Yeah, it absolutely is, because that can also be a tactic. If a team is bunkering, if you put it out like near the corner flag, their corner flag, so that then they have a deep throw and you can try to lock them in.
Yeah.
And they've got people maybe a little bit out of position, so if you win that ball back right away, you can go to goal quickly because maybe they've got a person stretched over, maybe there's a hole that's opened up, you're good to go. That long throw makes that a little bit harder of a proposition.
You can like hit Tejada from 40, 50 yards. You know what I'm saying? I'm only half joking. I really think that's possible.
Stupid Roy to laugh. Showing everybody how long throws are effective.
Also, I've never seen Hernan Dario Gomez and Tony Pulis in the same place at the same time. So, just saying.
There you go.
Someone needs to prove it.
They're
otherwise.
Almost the exact same person.
The only Panamanian we haven't talked about that we think might start is Jaime Penedo, Panama goalkeeper. One interesting thing is that he played for Bruce Arena for a couple of years. Arena mentioned this in the press conference, like I know him well. Seemed to say it with some affection. And I wonder if that is a pro or a con. Do you think so? I don't know Penedo's pros and cons enough to say, oh yeah, he always does this thing and Bruce Arena can exploit this. But I just wonder in Bruce Arena's mind, is that sort of there's something here I can work with.
Well, I would say first of all that like Bruce Arena never seems like he wants to convey that he thinks that way. In a strange, like, I mean, he reminds me a little bit of like a Game of Thrones character who like doesn't want you to know they're plotting the entire time, so they're always like, "Oh, I don't know what I would do in that situation." Meanwhile, they've got 12 plans out in the works,
and no spoilers.
Nope.
No spoilers. So we won't even name any particular characters who did plotting.
We will not.
But basically all of them did.
Yes, but basically all of them do. But like, so I would say if it were to be one of those two things, either positive or negative, I would say it's probably a positive because maybe there is that moment of like, oh, he doesn't do well if you put him under pressure in the first 5 minutes, or if you like run into him, he gets really frustrated. Like maybe he knows those little tidbits that he can impart on his players.
You know what? So I've researched this, and you have as well, really well. I haven't done much Penedo research, and now I kind of regret not doing it. I wish I had. If there are Galaxy fans out there, please tweet at us. Let us know what are the pros and cons of Jaime Penedo.
Yeah. I mean, speak for yourself. I did lots of Jaime Penedo research.
Did you prove it?
In the sense that about 5 minutes before we started recording, I said to you, it's probably Penedo in goal, right? And I think you said, yeah, I think so, right? And so that shows you where we were with that one. Maybe we were a little bit focused on everybody else on the field. Okay,
so I feel like we've previewed Panama. We know what to expect. We should hope it's Murillo at right back.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be Machado. Machado or Mercado? What are you going with?
I'm going to say Machado.
Machado, I'll go with you then.
Okay.
I'll say Machado.
All right.
We should get to what we think the United States will do, what we hope the United States will do. But first, today's sponsor is Roughneck Scarves. Roughneck Scarves are the official providers of scarves for US soccer. Also for MLS, also for USL, also for NCAA. But today we should focus on US soccer.
I think we should.
So, assuming all goes well and the US qualifies for the World Cup, there's a winter between now and the World Cup in Russia. You might want to start showing your support for the US by wrapping something warm and red and white and blue around your neck. Roughneck Scarves has a huge collection of US soccer scarves.
I do wonder if the people at Roughneck Scarves saw this on the calendar and were like, October World Cup qualifier, probably going to be in Columbus, going to be kind of chilly. People are going to want those scarves. Orlando, really? Okay, fine. And I know they have some lightweight offerings, but yeah, I think the scarf's probably more effective for say the January camp if all goes well,
or the November playoff if
also
all goes medium bad.
Yeah.
But if you want a scarf to show support for the US national team, where can people go, Taylor? And how do they get the deep Total Soccer Show discount?
They can go to roughneckscarves.com. That's RUFFNECK, and then scarves. I'm assuming people can put that one together, and use the promo code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase, to get 20% off their order.
I feel like if you can't spell scarves, then you don't deserve one. You don't deserve 20% off.
That's fair. That's fair.
But we'll put the link in the show notes just in case. And thank you to Roughneck Scarves for their long-term and continued support of the Total Soccer Show.
Indeed. So, with that said, since we've already started talking about the USA, US Scarves, let's talk about the US national team, shall we?
Ooh, where do you want to start? There's a lot to talk about here.
Maybe possible formations. Should we go with that? Should we go with... we could also go with Bruce Arena's in-depth, very useful press conference that we watched where we learned a lot of information.
Let's start with the press conference. All right, there was a 13-minute press conference today. We watched it on Facebook Live. It was Bruce Arena and the assembled US media. I want to be semi-controversial here and say, bad questions, people.
Yeah.
Bad questions, with 3 exceptions. I think there were 3 good questions. One asking about what's Bob Bradley doing here, what's that all about. One was asking what's your plan to break down Panama, to which Bruce Arena didn't really answer. And the third, I've forgotten who asked it, I'm sorry, but someone asked, what's going on with Fabian Johnson? Yeah. And we got an answer out of Bruce. Can we start there? Because there's been a lot of speculation.
We can. I didn't watch that part. I didn't make it that far.
Oh, okay,
so
actually,
sure. You can talk about it, and I will respond.
Luckily for you, I
got too frustrated.
I wrote down what Bruce said.
All right.
He said, okay, I picked a squad to win this game. He wasn't in it. But I think Fabian's a very good player. If we continue to move forward with the national team, meaning if I don't lose these games and get fired, I suspect he's going to be with us in camps down the road. So the reason that's important is, obviously it's not important for the Panama game because we can't talk about him because he's not here. It means it's not as if there's been some bust up and Fabian Johnson is out the door. He's just not here for this game and he's an option going forward.
Yeah, it kind of confirms what we expected, or suspected rather, which is that maybe there was an injury concern. Yeah, and then hadn't really gotten to full fitness, wasn't ready for the pace and the physicality that this game was almost certainly going to require. So we'll leave him at home in Germany. We won't make him travel that ridiculous distance.
What about the Bob Bradley? Again, sorry, I didn't write down who asked these questions, but I want to say thank you to the people who did ask good questions, all 3 of you. Someone asked about Bob Bradley, and Arena essentially said he hasn't got an official role. Bob's just in here being Bob, and he's not coming to Trinidad with us. It's just I wanted to talk to him and take advantage of him. And then I saw a light bulb go off over Taylor's head.
Well, I think you're even making it. That's even more specific than he went with he doesn't have an official role, but Bob's just here being Bob. We're honored to have him. He's obviously got a great pedigree. We're excited to see what he can bring in. And then I think he added and of course he's the parent of one player.
And he's not going to Trinidad.
And then I think then there was a follow up of will he go with you to Trinidad? And he just said no.
Yeah.
And so all of that makes me think that there is a very specific reason why Bob Bradley is in this camp. I can't really say for sure what it is. We both have an idea.
Wasn't he meeting some Orlando Pride players for drinks at Epcot?
That's possible.
That wasn't it.
Hopefully not. My guess is going to be that you bring in a coach like Bob Bradley because he has experience, obviously, but because he has experience doing specific things. And so we talked a little bit about what that might be that the United States might need. And I don't think it's when we played Panama, this guy did that, so I'm going to teach our players how to react. I think it's here's how you play against a defensive team that's looking to break, because that's what the United States did under Bob Bradley.
See, I think it's different. I think it's slightly different to that. I think it's Bob Bradley knows how to set up a team to be the defensive team that's ready to break, a la USA 2009.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. So probably what we suspect is, in practice, maybe Bruce Arena has had Bob Bradley coach like a second 11 of US players to mimic Panama and have two deep-lying holder midfielders, and they hit on the counter. And so it's almost like Arena's been able to practice his guys against Bob Bradley's guys who are mimicking Panama.
Yeah, and so then the idea is that you basically get the practice of breaking down that team and finding ways through when they're going to be bunkered and resolute in defense.
How confident are we that we're right in this sort of... this is based on nothing, right, except our sort of Sherlock-esque deductions.
It's just, I would say part of it is the conspiracy theory aspect of just how it was just so like, oh, nothing, like it's fine, whatever, I don't even care, it's fine, whatever, he's here, it's cool. Like it was just such a politician-y way to dance around a question that like it felt like an intentional thing where he didn't want to say, well, we brought him in to help us handle a system.
He said, Bob's being Bob, which is what, a solipsism? Where it just, or a tautology?
A tautology,
it doesn't actually mean anything.
No, it doesn't. But with that, I'll say this, though, that like, really then what does that mean? Because Bob Bradley isn't known for like, and maybe he is and I just don't know it, but as far as I understand, he's not known for being this like great charismatic locker room presence who's going to bring the team together, or like he's not going to come in and have this dramatic...
I think, not in a charismatic way. He does bring a team together, but in a sort of like everybody focus on this thing.
But not what I mean, though. What I mean is like you don't bring him in to be like, bring the locker room togetgether, unite them. That's not why he's there.
Not like a Churchillian team talk.
No, and he's not known for like... finding a way to help these two attackers specifically. Like it's like I'm equating it with like football, where it's not like he's this like famed offensive coordinator who knows how to do all this stuff. Like that's why you would bring him in for that reason. So then the only thing I can go back to is like, what did he do really well in his like most prominent moments? And it was play defensive, have a team look very organized and well disciplined and well drilled, and then break at pace. And that's what I think Panama are going to do. So it makes sense why you would bring him in for that reason.
I hope Bob Bradley's team didn't win in practice if that's what happened.
I don't know. Maybe that kind of teaches you some lessons. Maybe you need to learn to improve.
The other question... So one of the questions I wasn't thought about was, how do we make Christian Pulisic more effective? What will you do to make Christian Pulisic more effective? And Arena's answer, with a slight eye roll, was... It's not about finding space for Christian Pulisic. It's about the whole team. Let's not all focus on Christian Pulisic.
Yeah. And like, which is a good answer and an obvious answer. But like, I want to say one more time that like, some of these questions, I know you don't watch The American Office, and you certainly wouldn't have watched The Office past when Steve Carell leaves.
Right.
But there's a scene when John Krasinski is interviewing Robert California, who's played by James Spader, who's this very intimidating character, and everyone who's interviewing him is super intimidated. And so the interview question he ends up getting asked by John Krasinski is like, you are obviously a confident man. Can you speak to the importance of... confidence? Like it just that's what it felt like. It felt like a lot of sort of like, is it important that the United States play in a World Cup? And it's like, yes. So,
sorry, I started this. We should be a little bit careful because some of those journalists may either listen to or be aware of the Total Soccer Show. But what I think it gets at is the things that I think are important for this game are specific to what certain players are going to do and what the US might do against certain things. But it seems like we're still stuck in a landscape where the media is writing stories in a very general sense. And all they need is a quick quote from Bruce Arena about, things are bad, but we're going to right the ship and we're going to win this game. And they need a quick quote from Bruce Arena about how, it's very important that we qualify for the World Cup because the World Cup is very important. Yeah. And it's almost like I could have given them those quotes. To me, when you have the press conference, you should be gathering important information that the public wants to absorb, right? Not just sort of like... fluffy quotes that fill out a story.
Yeah, and so I think...
with all due respect to all the journalists there.
Well, I'll add this, though. So I think some of the questions then were still frustrating to me. But I can also understand how, like, we had a bunch of people ask on Twitter and email why I didn't follow up with Rob Stone and ask him when he said, Bruce Arena told me who his starting 11 was, more or less. Why didn't you follow up? And my answer to that, and thank you to Dan Degnan, who helped remind me of this, because this really was, in the moment, I was like, there's no point in asking him. Because he's already said it was in confidence, it was off the record. So I could ask that question, but he's going to say, I can't really commit, or he'll make a joke, and then we'll move on.
That's weird. He did email it to me afterwards.
There you go.
You ready?
But it's going to bring the whole mood down. And so, like, I understand then if you're a journalist who knows Bruce Arena isn't, if you say, are you going to start Alejandro Bedoya to do this, or are you going to start, another player to do this? He's probably not going to give you that specific information, and then you've kind of wasted a question, and maybe you feel a little bit silly. I've been in that position asking a coach a question that they didn't want to answer. You feel silly at the end.
Oh, I haven't. I thought through my questions.
Oh, yeah, but you can also have those moments where a coach, that's fine. But I've had those moments where I have like a very, in my mind, well thought through, articulate question that I think gets to a point, and they don't want to answer it. And if they don't want to answer it, they will either say like kind of dance around it the way Bruce Arena did with that, or they will be
Bob's being Bob.
Like I asked Sir Alex Ferguson, are you going to play two strikers because you have this? And he's like, oh, we've never played two strikers. And I felt very silly, but the reality is he didn't want to answer specific questions about their tactic. That's you have those moments where they're not going to answer, and if you know he's not going to answer, then you might as well just be like, all right, well, I'm going to write a puff piece about the importance of this game and how the United States hasn't taken their eyes off the prize, and I need a quote from him about how important is it to keep your eyes on the prize.
All right, so no answers about lineup or approach were given. There was one smart person who asked, how are you going to break down Panama's defense? Bruce Arena said, because we've talked about how they got this great defensive setup already, Bruce Arena said, we have a plan to break down Panama's defense. He did not elaborate. So I think what we should try and do is try and work out, what is Bruce Arena's plan to try and break down Panama's defense, or what do we hope that it is?
I think just long crosses into the box and see what happens.
Aim for Roman Torres.
Yes, exactly. What could go wrong?
We're going to have Christian Pulisic challenge Roman Torres in the air for every ball.
Sounds perfect. What could go wrong? I think what you and Neil kind of went with yesterday is what I would agree with, which is that Panama will allow you to have the ball out wide. They're happy for you to lump crosses in. I think they'll probably make it a little bit difficult for you to put in the exact cross you want, but they're not going to be high pressing, not allowing anybody time on the ball. I think they're happy for you to have more time out wide. I think they don't want you to have it in the middle, and I think that's what the United States should go for, is trying to pass the ball through the middle,
so it should
possess and be calm.
You don't want us to have it in the middle. We're going to have it in the middle, right? So try and essentially, so what we're talking about is kind of forcing the ball into the middle, which means having players who are capable of finding space and receiving the ball in the middle and making something happen.
And with the making something happen, I'll add the caveat, though, that not forcing something to happen, because I think a big part of it is going to be the United States is going to have possession. But too often when the opponent is willing to sit off and give the U.S. time on the ball, that means center back passes to center back passes to center back goes to the left back goes to the center back. That's not going to help us. I think you have to have the numbers and the technical ability in the middle to be able to possess the ball and move it around the top of Panama's box, not rush a shot, not try to force through a through ball, but really pick your spot, but always keep them on their heels and never let them get comfortable.
Okay, so before we get to specific formations and lineups, who are some of the players who are capable of finding space, moving the ball, making things happen?
Sure. I mean, the obvious answer for me is Christian Pulisic, and then the other obvious answer to me is Michael Bradley. I think those are two of the big ones.
Okay, I still think Bradley's going to end up deeper.
Yeah,
He's not going to be up on them. So you said Christian Pulisic in the middle, and that seems to be one of the big talking points around this game is, where does Christian Pulisic play? And the two options are, you put him on the wing where there's going to be more space and he can run at people, and we tried that against Honduras and Costa Rica, and they basically just fouled him out of the game. Or you put him through the middle and he can find space and run at people. And I think if they try and foul him out of the game, then they're fouling him in very dangerous places.
It has literally never occurred to me that he could play wide. In my mind, he is only going to play in the middle. It seems like that's what they have always indicated. That's where they want him to operate.
Here's what worries me.
They being Bruce Arena and the other U.S. coaches.
Yeah, so in the away game in March, we went with a 4-4-2. Christian Pulisic was on the right wing.
Boo.
Theoretically, but was given license. And I remember afterwards Arena saying, we kind of let him do what he wanted, was given license to drift infield. So we ended up with kind of Pulisic on the right, but also coming in drifting centrally. And that it kind of worked that one time when he got the assist, but outside of that, I don't think he saw too much of the ball.
Yeah, no. And I think, I'm not trying to be dismissive here, but the reality is that works when you are giving a player the freedom, I would say, again, at club level, when he's surrounded by world-class or close to world-class players, which is what Christian Pulisic has at Borussia Dortmund. Yeah. I would say some of the players in the United States team are not at that level. That's why only Christian Pulisic plays at Borussia Dortmund and not the entire U.S. team. So I think you can't give that amount of flexibility and then think everybody else will figure it out and learn how to adapt on that. I think it has to be a little bit more rigid and it has to be a little bit more nuanced.
Okay, let's follow Bruce Arena's lead, though.
Rigid and nuanced? Does that make sense? I think so. I'm cool with it. Whatever.
And we say that Christian Pulisic is one of those central guys. We're going to hope that he can receive the ball. What I would hope is then then that he either plays some quick 1-2s or he runs at people, and Roman Torres has to decide, or even a defensive midfielder like Gabriel Gomez has to decide, do I step, do I foul, do I back off? And he can really cause some uncertainty and some panic if we can get him on the ball in that spot. Okay?
Yes.
So, but let's follow Bruce Arena's lead and not just think about Pulisic.
All right.
Who else can be around him? Who else can do damage to Panama in that sort of central attacking midfield area? Not literally the number 10 spot, maybe to the left and right of Pulisic, maybe ahead of Pulisic. Who else can we scare Panama with?
I mean, I think your favorite person in the world, Darlington Nagbe, is an obvious answer there.
Call him by his real name.
And I would say...
Darlie Nags?
No, I will never call him that. Darlington Nagbe is a possible option. And then I would say, strangely enough, I didn't have him as a starter, but I feel like I could see him starting this game as Alejandro Bedoya as well.
Interesting. Okay, so Darlington Nagbe, those 1-2s.
Yep.
I think that's where it's at. I see Darlington Nagbe combining with a central Christian Pulisic, playing 1-2s around Machado and Torres and all those guys, and one of them getting in on goal. Alejandro Bedoya, I agree. Wasn't it Matt Doyle was saying no one's better at the pass before the pass? As in... meaning sort of, kind of he's saying the MLS assist, essentially.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Other attacking options, Paul Arriola. But then I start thinking of him as a widey. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's more of like Paul Arriola getting down the wing and getting in a not perfect but serviceable cross.
Yeah.
And I've been up on Paul Arriola starting this game. I think I may even have mentioned it like 2 or 3 times this week, talking to you, talking to Neil Blackman. Suddenly, when we've started talking about the idea of crosses not being so effective and Torres heading them all away, maybe it's not Paul Arriola's game.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, we also talked about Paul Arriola as having that, like, the breakaway speed, like, the good first touch, the ability to be, like, technical in a tight space. So that does seem like it would fit what you would need here. I think the difference is that a lot of that is his work rate and going down that wing, as you said. I think that probably suits more maybe Trinidad away.
Yeah, and if there's no space to run into, then what are you going to do with all that pace?
Exactly.
What about Kellyn Acosta?
I mean, we talked about this in our like initial roster reaction show, and then I know you
all
guys
the way
talked
back
about
in
it as
Monday.
well. Yeah, it does feel a long time ago. Basically, just he doesn't seem like he's fit enough to start this game. Coming off of like his recent string of not playing or maybe getting some substitute minutes, and then even for FC Dallas when he did get those minutes, looking a little bit off the pace and a little bit disinterested maybe at times. So I feel like that doesn't justify a starting spot. Then again, who knows what's happened in camp?
I also have a picture in my head of Mr. Josmir Volmi Altidore dropping deep and connecting passes and getting some 1-2s going.
I think so. And maybe not getting his name on the score sheet, but maybe being the one that we when we do like the longer form review, we're like, oh, he did that and he did this and he set up this and he helped that happen. Yeah.
Where only soccer nerds celebrate him. And the general public are like, oh, Altidore didn't do anything.
Yeah, so I could see Altidore, and then the other one that I think makes sense to me to be included in there is probably Bobby Wood. Bobby Wood, because I think he's outside of Josie Altidore. He's a striker who fits this game. He's got the technical ability, hasn't got the scoring record in Bundesliga quite yet.
How do we feel about the Wood-Altidore partnership?
I mean, not great. I think it's the best partnership we could put out right now in terms of talent level. I don't think it's really hit its stride or they've really ever like gelled the way we would like to see.
It's theoretically all set to be really good, right?
Yes.
With Wood stretching a defence or making them worry about sort of his directness in behind, and Altidore then a bit freer to sort of make his own runs in behind, but not be the only guy doing it, so he can come deep and connect. I could see this working out long term for the United States. There's a name we haven't mentioned.
Clint Dempsey?
Yeah. If we were talking in March about a guy who could come deep, connect passes, frighten a CONCACAF opposition, come up big time for the World Cup in a must-win World Cup qualifier, the idea of Clint Dempsey not starting would be laughable.
Yeah.
But Bruce Arena has put this idea in our heads, and he's put it on the field in some
March
games.
was also 7 months ago. I mean,
that's true, yeah. But now Clint Dempsey is not an automatic starter, and we're almost assuming, like when I wrote out my various potential lineups for this, Dempsey wasn't a starter in any of them. And I think I'm only doing that because that's what I've come to expect. But I actually think he has all the qualities, those sort of stare at you, scare you, and also, open up some space when there isn't any. It seems like this is a game for Dempsey. I
mean, that's like a double-sided sword or whatever you want to go with, where but also that leads to cards a lot of the time. and an emotional Dempsey can be good and it can be terrible. Yeah. And really the same goes for Bedoya. We've seen Bedoya get feisty and get a stupid early yellow card on a number of occasions. You can't afford that in this game because if you get Dempsey angry, he's not playing for the team and trying to get a result. He's playing because he's annoyed. And that's kind of an element I would like to avoid. I also think Clint Dempsey at this stage is more of a player to be unleashed than to start the game and have a tactical plan.
Is that what you think, or has Bruce Arena made you think that?
I mean, it's what I think.
Yeah,
Bruce Arena isn't around, so yeah.
Because one thing that's been getting on to me is Arena's had this idea that if you go to a World Cup with Clint Dempsey, he can't play 90 minutes all through those games, right? But if there's a one-off game that you need to win, that's not the situation, right? He could play 90 against Panama. He could be exhausted, and then we just don't need him against Trinidad.
Yeah, I mean, that's also possible. Bruce Arena said he's done zero preparation for Trinidad. So,
do you believe him? That was one of the other things from the press conference, right?
No, I don't. I think he said that last time, or like when we went away and played the back three against Mexico. I think he said he hadn't thought about it yet.
And then afterwards he said, yeah, we've been planning this for weeks.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, or it's all the emphasis on the game ahead of us. We haven't even thought about the next game that follows. Yeah, I feel like that's a kind of common-ish refrain for coaches, and then it tends to not be the case.
All right, so we've got this far without saying any numbers. Do you want to try and sort of fit some of the players we've just talked about into a formation?
Sure.
The shape that seems to work best for me is, I'm now thinking, the shape that Bruce Arena first rolled out against Honduras back in March. And I would call it, not everybody would, I would call it a 4-1-3-2.
Yep.
Right? 2 strikers, 3 attacking midfielders, Michael Bradley underneath all of them.
Yeah.
And I've only come to really believe in this in the last 24 hours. I think before that I was thinking more like 4-2-3-1, give Michael Bradley an extra bit of defensive cover. But now I'm convinced that Panama are going to be so deep and won't break in big enough numbers to cause just a solo Bradley enough trouble. It's more about getting as many attacking midfielders and strikers up on Panama in their faces as possible.
Yeah.
And it says 4-1-3-2 to me.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because when I was listening to your interview with Neil Blackman, you guys didn't seem like you were on that train, and that was what immediately jumped out to me. It was like, it's a 4-1-3-2 then.
I changed trains at the station.
It's like if they're going to sit back and not be that attacking and maybe try to break on the counter, but mostly sit back, you want to commit as many numbers as you can forward with the technical ability. That lends us up to a 4-1-3-2.
Let's have a quick debate about this then. What if we need to be thinking about like making sure no Panamanians sneak through that back door? Is it worth starting with 2 holding midfielders, 4-2-3-1, and maybe sneaking into a 4-1-3-2 later on? Like maybe we don't want like Panama scoring in the first 15 minutes on the counter.
I mean, I guess my feeling is like a counter's a counter, and you could try to set yourself up to deal with a counter as much as you can. But I don't even know if keeping 2 guys central will help. If they break down the channel and somebody's out of position, like you have problems there too.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know if having 2 holding midfielders does much to alleviate that. But at the same time, it also doesn't really help you get numbers forward and help you get consistent attack. And then you're having to change your entire approach midway through the game, kind of on the fly.
So maybe we talked about Bedoya or Areola earlier. Maybe Bedoya is the option that kind of lets you do both.
I think so.
Because Areola would drift wider, I assume, right? He'd be more of a right winger. Bedoya's more like a right centre mid. And then if we are like collapsing backwards, he's more likely to be able to do that central midfield job than Paul Areola.
We're getting real close to talking about a 4-4-2 diamond here, aren't we?
Kind of,
yeah.
Yes. I mean, I still think of it as a 4-1-3-2, but it's kind of a diamond with Bradley at the base, Bedoya and Nagbe right and left, and Pulisic at the tip.
Yeah.
But then I'd push the sides up a little more, so it is more like maybe a diamond as you see it, like sitting on its point.
So you're thinking almost like or like a 2-3, like 3-2 or something like that. I don't know what that means.
4-1-3-2 is what I'm saying. 4-1-3-2. Bradley stays behind everything. 3 attacking midfielders. It's Nagbe left, Pulisic central, Bedoya right. 2 strikers. Let's say Altidore and Wood with Dempsey sort of scraping his foot on the sidelines like a bull ready to charge.
But then with the 3 with the 2 wide that you're talking about, Bedoya and Nagbe, but they're still going to be more central, right? You're not going to have them on the wing, right? So that's where I'm saying it's a confusing combination of things.
A bit of width sneaking up, DeAndre Yedlin and Jorge Villafana are my 2 fullbacks coming to join the party.
Right.
Yeah?
So I'm still going back to this is basically a diamond 4-4-2
okay,
then.
Yeah,
it's kind of where we are.
Maybe
and suddenly 4-1-3-2 sounds so much better than 4-4-2 diamond.
But just say, if it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel better, say those numbers instead.
Okay, maybe I will. 4-4-2 with like a triangle. So you've got your 3 at the like top with Bradley.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying with a diamond on its point.
Right.
It's a flatbed diamond with a point.
That makes me feel better.
They don't all have to be jewelry analogies.
So then if we're talking about that, do you want to talk about the defense as well, since you mentioned those 2 fullbacks?
So I think it's obvious that it's Yedlin and Villafana.
I hope it's obvious,
because Zuzi and Beasley seem more like backup options.
Yeah. And when I say I hope it's obvious to you, I mean more so I hope it is DeAndre Yedlin, otherwise I'm going to be very, very upset.
But it also works. So if we're going a bit narrower with that attacking midfielders in Bedoya and Nagbe, then that means there needs to be some width so that Panama at least have to think about the width.
Yeah.
And maybe that should come from an overlap from Yedlin down the right and an overlap from Villafana down the left.
Yep.
So that kind of all is starting to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah?
100%.
Okay. The only thing we haven't talked about is centre-backs.
Right.
Okay, let's get this out of the way. I often love Omar Gonzalez. With Gabi Torres on the counter, I don't want it to be Omar Gonzalez.
You often love Omar Gonzalez?
I like a lot of things that he does. I don't like his dropping deep and breaking an offside line so that Panama could hit us on the counter.
Can you name me 3 things that you like about Omar Gonzalez?
Stepping and winning the ball, aerial clearances,
Okay.
95% of his slide tackles.
Oh,
The one against Honduras, not so much.
okay. I feel like even
Was it Costa Rica? I can't remember who it was.
I feel like that 3 things was like a little bit like roughly 3 things by the end of it. But yeah, sure.
What I'm hoping for is Jeff Cameron, right centre-back.
Yep.
Right, he's back from injury. He played for Stoke. All is good. And if the gash above his eye is healed,
Yep.
Matt Beasler, left centre-back.
Agreed.
Put some Vaseline over it, like in Rocky, if you have to.
Yep. I mean, yeah, that works.
Just send him out there to head balls away
Also
with
helps
Vaseline.
you avoid other elbows and flying fists and stuff like that. The Vaseline flies right off.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Other options are Tim Ream, Michael Orozco Fiscal.
Yep.
Suddenly, actually, there are quite a few centre-backs on this roster,
Yep.
which gives credence to another idea we've seen floating around enough that I think we should consider it a possibility, and that is that the US goes 3 at the back.
Well, I'm a big believer in the idea that like when you start to see something, like maybe there's like a tweet about it here and a journalist talks about it here as a possibility, it suddenly becomes like, wait, hold on, do people know something? And when everyone's talking about it, I tend to believe maybe it's true. And in this situation, it's a 3-5-2. That seems to be the thing that a lot of people are discussing.
Yeah.
Some with the confidence that makes me think that they know that it's what's going to happen.
So the reasons would be, I mean, we did it against Mexico, or that's really more like a 5-4-1 kind of defensive, right? But also the last time we saw it was at the very end of the Honduras game when things were desperate. We ended up getting Christian Pulisic to the middle. Christian Pulisic drawing a foul. The Kelly Acosta free kick is what Bobby Wood eventually scores from after, bar and a bit of a scramble. With wing backs. So the last time we saw the US on the field scoring that late equaliser that really kept our World Cup hopes alive, they were in a 3-5-2. But is that just Bruce Arena, throwing everything at a game to try and get an equaliser because it's desperate? Or is it an aha moment of, oh, this kind of works, I should do this against Panama?
Probably the first and not the second. Because I don't think it's an aha moment by any means. I think it's definitely...
Is he too old for aha moments? He's had all of them.
Well, it's just more so like if it were, it would be something that they would have kept going with, and I don't think that's something that they're going to keep going with. I think it's going to be more of like, this works here, we're going to try it there. I think the reality is that this is a game where getting a draw doesn't help you. Like a draw is a loss, and a loss is a draw, basically, so you may as well go for it. And I think then if you look at this...
But why is 3-5-2 going for it?
Because
I'm open to the idea that it is, but I need some persuading.
Because I think it allows you to push more numbers forward because you can keep 3 back, essentially. You can keep kind of cover more space. I also think, to your point about the back 4, like it's Jeff Cameron and like it could be Gonzalez, but we don't love that. And maybe Matt Beasler if he's okay. It might be this and I think maybe there's just an element of like defense by platoon. And if you put 3 center backs in there, that's probably a little bit safer than like 1 and maybe a question mark.
I'm also into your idea. Yeah, so if the fullbacks get forward in a back 4, it leaves a hole, right? But in a back 3, we could send Yedlin and Villafana as the wing-backs. We could send them forward, so it ends up as almost like a 3-4-1-2.
Yep.
And if you still keep 3 back, you've at least got 3 back. And then especially if Panama aren't sending many numbers forward, maybe 3 central defenders is enough to deal with whatever Panama send, at least initially. Then everyone hustles back afterwards.
And I would even go so far as to say that I think if you look at like what DeAndre Yedlin has done lately for Newcastle, we talked about it with the Liverpool game, you could even have it in such a way that it's like you've got your back 3, but they're kind of shifted over to the left. You cover Villafana a bit more, and you leave the right side a little bit more open, trusting the pace of DeAndre Yedlin to get back in time to give you like a flat back 4 if need be.
Trusting the pace of DeAndre Yedlin. Okay. So if we did do that, that would also give us numbers to go forward, right? Yep. It would give us 2 strikers. It would give us Pulisic central still. And it would give us 2 midfielders behind Pulisic.
Exactly.
The sacrificial lamb here is Darlington Nagbe.
Yeah.
Because I don't see him fitting into that unless he's the partner for Michael Bradley in central midfield. But I kind of don't see that in a 3-5-2.
No, I don't see that either.
I'll eat those words if Bruce does it, but...
Weirdly, I think we've landed in a situation where no matter what, I think Bedoya starts.
Interesting.
And which I would not have expected to be in that position at this point. Not that it's a bad position, just that we often kind of overlook Alejandro Bedoya, sometimes I would say justifiably, sometimes because we just don't think about it and that's our fault. But here to have him as a starter, while I'm not necessarily so comfortable with it, I get why it would be the case, and I think I'm increasingly okay with it.
Okay, so here's where I'm at. I'd be happy if we come out in a 4-1-3-2. I'd be happy if we come out in a 3-5-2.
Yep.
I think I'm just mostly happy.
Really?
The only thing I'd maybe be a little suspicious of is a straight-up 4-4-2 with like Pulisic on a wing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that kind of fell flat the couple of times that we've done it. So I think I want a bit of sort of dynamism that gets more attacking midfielders centrally.
I mean, I think
that's what I want to see.
To take a page out of Bruce Arena's book, I would say that I have formations I would like to see that I think would work. I am not the coach. What I would like to see is the United States, as we always say, have patterns and have clearly established ideas about what they want to do in attack.
Yeah.
And if you see them come out in a 3-5-2, and that's really exciting, but like Yedlin drifts inside and seems like he's lost, and Bradley comes back in. Now we have 4 central defenders. That to me speaks to, we're going to try this. We didn't really work on it enough. Hopefully it works out. And that's what you don't want to see against a team that's going to be compact and really difficult to break down. You have to have specific ways that you're going to break them down. Otherwise, you're not going to.
Yeah, okay. So this goes to, as much as we talk about tactics and formation and the various combinations of numbers, my head goes back to your Alexi Lalas-Rob Stone interview, where Lalas talked about personality and, just being up for it. And Rob Stone literally said, I don't care, just get it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
I think it's worth us, because we get a bit nerdy, right? We get a bit tactical. It's worth us thinking about the idea that at some point it really is just more about getting it done in a very basic, like almost grunty kind of way.
I mean, yeah, but that doesn't work, and that's not how it works. I think what I would say to that is that, I could see it be the United States have a good game, but it's frustrating, and then in the end it's bundled over the line in the last minute off of a lucky free kick. I get that point.
But you take that right now, right?
No, yeah, but what I'm saying though is that I think that that's what they mean when they say I don't care how it happens, I just want to win. But when you have the mentality of we'll just put everybody out there, everybody shoot, everybody try to score, we're going to make it happen, that is when you lose a game, guaranteed. Because you don't have a plan. It's just everyone for themselves, make something happen, everybody fight. That's not a game plan. It is a recipe for disaster.
Okay, so we want to see clear evidence of a game plan early on. What would be clear evidence? Would it be if you saw the same sequence of passes or attempted passes in the first 10 minutes?
Really, I would say the ball being moved from left to right or right to left in Panama's defensive third. Because that, to me, speaks to the United States is probing and being patient but keeping possession. It is not passing back and forth between the center backs and then hoofing it long. It's not Christian Pulisic trying to dribble through the middle and drawing a foul. That's great if that happens, but it doesn't.
Can't be the only thing.
It doesn't exactly. It doesn't speak to the United States having a game plan that they're trying to execute.
And actually, now you've said this, so I don't want to go on too long with this, but if Panama are compact, it is an idea to sort of go down one wing, draw them over, then try and switch the play over the other side where there's some spaces opened up, then try and cut in from the side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get at them from that angle. Because that's a way to go.
Yeah, because all of that speaks to a plan. And I would say if you want to go a movie analogy here.
I always do.
If your script is
Unless it's a hockey movie.
Fair. If your script is to improv, then you don't have a script. That's it. And so if your game plan is everybody, Christian Pulisic dribble and Bradley look for balls over the top and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it works out. That's not an actual plan.
No plan should end with, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough on this?
Actually, no, because there's one thing that we have not talked about at all, and I think has been a source of debate for a lot of people. It's goalkeeper. Who do you have in between the six? That's what I would say, too. A lot of people seem to be feeling like it should be Brad Guzan. People haven't been as impressed with Tim Howard, both for club and country. But I think in this game, maybe I go against my argument against Clint Dempsey, and I think just for, he's been there, he knows what to do, he knows how to keep that defense organized. To me, it's Tim Howard.
Yep.
There we are.
Tim Howard, I'm pretty confident we'll start this game.
Yep.
And like Bruce Arena, we'll give a lot more thought to Trinidad and Tobago next week.
That works for me.
Okay, the game is ESPN. The program starts at 7.
Yep.
But via Andrew Das of the New York Times and FIFA's website and CONCACAF's website, I am very confident, 100% confident, this game kicks off at 7:35 p.m. Eastern. 7:35 p.m. Eastern is the kickoff for USA versus Panama on Friday night.
Yes. Don't you wish that they could just say 7:35 kickoff, join us for the pregame at 7?
Yes, I do.
I would still be as inclined as I am now to join them for the pregame, but at least you're kind of telling people the actual facts.
And I had this little rant on Twitter, but this is an actual real-world example. I'm helping my wife with a thing on Friday night. I'm setting up an event for her. I want to be there until the very last minute that I can and then go watch the game.
Yeah.
So if I thought the game was at 7, I would have left 35 minutes earlier than I needed to be.
Yeah.
That's 35 minutes less help I can give to my wife. But now I know it's 7:35 thanks to Andrew Das. I will be staying till, I think on Twitter I said 7:30, probably 7:25, just to make sure I can get over here in time.
Plenty of time to help with wife. And then, but we had a couple people point out that on the West Coast, though, like there's a big difference between, the game starts at 7, so 4 p.m. here. So saying to your boss, I got to leave at 3:30 today to make it back in time to watch the game, versus like, hey, I'm going to skip lunch today and I'm leaving at 4. Like you've got that clear time to leave. It makes it much easier.
Yep.
So it would be very helpful if people could just straightforward say when kickoff is.
But hopefully enough people know from listening to this show,
Yep.
it is 7:35 Eastern kickoff on ESPN. Okay. The other thing I want to say is, let's just support the team.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people being down on various players. We did it a little bit in this show, but at some point we've all got to just get behind this team, get this team to the World Cup. I believe in kind of positive vibes and just thinking positive and cheering when they score.
Yeah, and I'm with you completely, because it's like we are where we are. And there's this idea of wallowing in we're not supposed to be here. Like, we should be better than this. It's so frustrating. It's like, yeah, well, we're not. So here's where we are. Like, continuing to be frustrated. And there are going to be those people who, even if the United States wins both these games, qualifies in third place, are still going to be like, but finishing third in CONCACAF. Like, it's still going to be a thing. And I just feel like it's a self-defeating approach to take at that point.
Yep.
Just be happy. Happy you're going to the World Cup.
And if we get to
a lot
third,
of people are not going to get to do that.
That's true. Most countries won't go to the World Cup.
Yep.
Let's not be one of them.
Until 2026, and then most countries will go to the World Cup.
But I do have
not
faith.
True, but you know what I mean.
I do have faith in the future, and we're going to quickly talk about U17s after this ad break.
That works for me.
Today's show is sponsored by Greats, Brooklyn's first sneaker company. They offer what the name suggests, the greats. That means high quality classic styles for both men and women that are made the best for less. We both have a pair, Taylor. They sent us a pair each.
We do, and I'm going to say that I very much enjoy mine. They're the the Royale Deluxe, I think it is. They're the white leather ones, and I got to say, I think I win in terms of shoes that a coach would wear, because I could absolutely see Pep Guardiola wearing my white shoes on the sideline.
Oh, David Rudin would have something to say about that.
Does he not like white sneakers?
No, he does the Pep Dress Like Pep series. Yeah,
I'm just saying,
so he'll know if Pep has white sneakers.
I'm going to say Pep wearing those with no-show socks. That's what I'm guessing. I know you don't have to wear socks. I still feel like he's a no-show sock kind of guy.
So I feel like you weren't 100% into, because they sent us a pair, a white pair and sort of a brown suede pair.
Yeah.
And you weren't 100% into the white shoes to begin with, but I think your wife persuaded you, no, white's the way to go.
I tend to do this thing, which I've learned when shopping with my wife. Women do not enjoy saying, that just doesn't look like you. Doesn't go well. Don't say that. And I had that same mentality with me of white shoes. I don't know if I'm a guy who can pull off white shoes outside of a soccer field where I tend to wear white shoes.
Do you really?
I used to, actually. Now I wear all black.
Yeah.
It's usually all black matte is what I go with now. But I used to wear white. It's not something that I ever really thought about wearing all the time. And now I wear them and I think, yeah, all right. I see it. I like it. I dig it. Me and Pep.
So my shoes stayed in the office a little while, mostly because of a bike-related transport problem. Yeah. I couldn't fit them in my bag. So eventually I just wore them home and left my other shoes here.
I like how you made it official sounding and then immediately blew your cover. It was a transport issue. I couldn't fit them on my bike.
No secrets on the Total Soccer Show, right? I'll say this. Because of the lining inside, the leather inside, it is the most comfortable pair of shoes I've had to break in. Normally, I've got kind of a big toe. And everyone has a big toe. I have a big toe. So I often get that toe hurts with new shoes. These were so supple, genuinely, that there was no time breaking in because it was nice and stretchy.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I would say I've got wide feet and no problems there either. So that's also a very good point to add.
So Total Soccer Show listeners can get 15% off their first order at Greats using the promo code Total Soccer Show, all one word, at checkout. So go to greats.com, find the footwear that makes you feel like a champ, like a World Cup qualifier, and enter Total Soccer Show at checkout. You get 15% off your first order. The link will be in the show notes.
Alrighty, and thank you to Greats for sponsoring today's show. Now, shall we talk about those 17-year-olds who I feel like are equally inclined to wear white shoes? Just saying. They're hip and cool.
So the U17 World Cup kicks off Friday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, Fox Sports 2. The US's first game is that exact same time because the US playing the hosts. It's USA against India, the first game of the U17 World Cup.
We've talked about this on the past 2 episodes of the Top Drawer Soccer Show.
Yeah.
Travis Clark and I 2 weeks ago previewed the US roster specifically. I know
position by position, you guys went for a good 40 minutes. I don't think there's a more detailed audio experience of the US men's U17 team.
And if there is, I don't want to listen to it. And then this week, you and Travis went over like the tournament as a whole, some players to look out for, a little bit more about the United States as well.
We went through the US's opponents. It's India on Friday. It's Ghana on Monday and Colombia on Thursday. We went through players to watch and what the story is with each of those teams. Then we did some sort of other players to watch throughout the tournament. So if you want to go deep on the U17 men's team and the U17 World Cup, please subscribe to the Top Draw Soccer Show. Top Draw Soccer is all one word. You'll get the most information you can get about the U17 World Cup.
So I really enjoyed your episode with Travis. You guys had really good information. My favorite point remains the fact that he could not pronounce that French player's name.
You mean Gouiri?
Yes.
Yeah, it is hard to say.
It really is. I found myself walking the dogs, and I'm sure anybody that walked by at the time, because I had headphones in, would just think I was a crazy person, because it was maybe like, Gary. Like, I was like, oh, that's a person learning how to talk.
No, Travis was great. Travis had deep research. We should give a quick preview for just Total Soccer Show listeners. This is a U17 team worth watching.
Yep.
This is a U17 team with future Atlanta United legend, if he sticks around, Andrew Carlton. Josh Sargent.
Is that his official title?
Yes. All one word. Yep. Josh Sargent, who is going to sign with Werder Bremen next season, already played at the U20 World Cup.
Yep.
Josh Sargent will be leading the line for the U17s. And
that's it. Nobody else. Just kidding.
Local favourite Chris Durkin will be in defensive midfield. We really think he's one to watch for the future. Loads of other players worth mentioning as well.
The one that I always go to, because I forget that people don't do a 5 days a week podcast that focuses on U.S. soccer, is like whenever anybody says, like, oh, the United States really just doesn't have any of that, like that top tier talent. Obviously, this team has a lot of it, some of the names you've already mentioned. And the one I always go to was, well, George Weah's son plays for them. And then that tends to win the argument.
And doesn't necessarily always start.
I don't think he'll. Travis pointed out, I don't think he will start.
Akinyola maybe will start.
Yep.
Yeah, and Timothy Weah will be coming off the bench. Yep. Oh, what a team, what a team. Here's the interesting thing. If you tune in Friday morning or you watch highlights later, again, 10:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff, it's India. I'm not convinced India is going to be any good. This is the first time an Indian team has ever been at the finals of a FIFA tournament.
Yep.
But there'll be a packed stadium and huge support, and these Indian kids will be sort of up for it. They'll be full of both nerves and adrenaline. It could be a really tough game for the United States, or it could be a blowout. I honestly don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
It'll be an experience.
I mean, I'm not comparing the two at all, but I'm going to compare the two at all. Not from like a talent standpoint, but I'll say, like, don't forget what the crowd did for Korea in 2002, is all I'm saying.
Yes.
Like a raucous atmosphere can give you a lot of like emotional support and strength, and can give your opponent a lot of intimidation.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that first game of the U17 World Cup, and we'll give brief coverage on the Total Soccer Show, but really our deep coverage of the U17 World Cup and the U17 men's national team will be on the Top Draw Soccer Show. I plugged it enough today, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, but I really it's
no, I was laughing more so that, like, did you feel like you had a time limit to get that one out? You got real fast there.
Well, I'm assuming the show's running long at this point. We've gone a long time on Panama and the United States.
It's what we do.
It's a big game.
We also haven't been in the office together since Sunday night. So that also, we're just trying to make up for lost time.
You've got sunburned in the few days.
That's what happens, man. That's what happens. When I go without Daryl, apparently I don't wear sunscreen. Is what I just implied there.
I'll remind you. I
appreciate that.
You want to get to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network?
I do indeed.
We have lots of reports to read out.
That we do, starting with Joshua Bonet scouting Sam Johnston, 24-year-old English goalkeeper on loan at Aston Villa from Manchester United. Johnston made his 10th start in as many EFL Championship fixtures. As the team's fine form continues, Johnston was once again blessed with a boring game. He made one highlight-worthy save, but otherwise it was an uneventful day for the youngster.
I also saw that Johnston has some... I can't remember what the stat is. I saw this on Twitter, that he has like the most saves of any keeper in the Premier League, Championship, Bundesliga, Serie A, all the sort of top leagues.
All right, then.
Yeah. Kevin Renshaw is scouting Yanni Serra, the 19-year-old German forward for Dortmund. Kevin says that Serra has established himself as a starting striker for Dortmund's U23 team, starting 8 of their 9 games in the Regionalliga West. He's also got minutes for Germany's U21 team, making sub-appearances in a friendly against Hungary and a qualification game against Kosovo. He was named to the German U21 squad to face Azerbaijan and Norway in early October. The only bad news is that in his 9 appearances for the U23s, he's only managed 1 goal and 0 assists.
Not ideal. William Reed scouting Harry Winks, 21-year-old English midfielder for Tottenham. I believe you've heard of him, Daryl Grove?
I have. He's in the England squad.
There it is. Winks started and played the full 90 against Apwell in the Champions League, as well as against Huddersfield in the league. He looks calm on the ball without making bad passes or on-the-ball mistakes. Winks now has a good chance to get significant playing time because of injury troubles to Victor Wanyama and Moussa Dembele. Daryl, before we move on, I wanted to ask you, we don't talk much about England. I know there were some people, England fans, who were frustrated that Harry Winks was called into that squad because of his youth and relative inexperience. How did you feel about that?
I think it's great. I
had a feeling.
Yeah, anytime you can get sort of an up-and-comer in the England squad. He didn't play, right? He did not play against Slovenia. If you didn't see, England won with a late goal from Harry Kane. But why not? Like, especially if you're the 23rd man on the roster, why not get him in there and get him exposed and get him sort of hooked up with the team?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
England fans just like to complain.
Sorted and settled. Well done, us.
Speaking of, Craig Allison is scouting Jack Harrison, the 20-year-old English midfielder for NYCFC. Craig says Jack scored the lone goal in NYCFC's 1-0 win over Montreal, played 76 minutes in the 1-1 draw with Chicago Fire, and to top off the week, Jack was added to the England under-21 squad for his first international call-up. I should know what the under-21s did this week. I didn't check. I don't know if Jack Harrison played for the under-21s.
It's been a busy week. I think you're excused for not knowing that one. Josh Cooper is scouting Henry Onyekuru, the 20-year-old Nigerian attacker on loan at Anderlecht from Everton. Even after Anderlecht replaced their manager, Onyekuru has continued to be a fixture in the first team. He started in Anderlecht's 3-0 loss to Celtic in the Champions League and in their 1-0 win over rival Standard Liège, which they won courtesy of an Onyekuru header in the 89th minute.
Russell Varner is scouting Hugo Arellano, the 19-year-old American defender for the LA Galaxy. After starting and going the full 90, albeit in a poor performance last Wednesday, Arellano did not see any playing time in the Galaxy's 1-1 draw with RSL on Saturday night. Siani took Arellano's place back in the starting 11, and once again, it remains to be seen how much playing time Arellano gets between now and the end of the season.
Corey Walters scouting Justin Glad, 20-year-old American centre-back for RSL. Glad helped a 9-man RSL draw late against the Galaxy this past weekend, where he had 76 minutes without his partner in crime, Marcelo Diaz, who was sent off in the 14th minute. I'm guessing that's why Russell referred to it as a disappointing draw. Glad was also listed as number 18 in MLS's 24 under 24, which is a slight dip from last year when he was number 15.
Did you see Kyle Beckerman's celebration when he scored?
No.
So he scored against the LA Galaxy. I think it was an equaliser. He did a sort of old man version of the Robbie Keane celebration. The forward roll.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. I'm just saying, isn't that kind of already an old man celebration?
Yeah,
so.
Well, it used to be a young man celebration.
That's
but
true.
Beckerman did it kind of laughing the whole way through, kind of in mockery of Robbie Keane.
Yikes. I mean, kind of waiting for him to be out of town, right? It doesn't quite have the impact if he were like standing on the field.
So Beth Jolly and Alex Barone are scouting Kylian Mbappe, the 18-year-old French forward for PSG. On September 30th, Kylian started and played the entire 90 in PSG's 6-2 win at home against Bordeaux. Scored his third goal in all competitions on a Julian Draxler through ball and had an assist. Kylian decided to forego his usual celebration, instead raising 2 fingers on each hand in tribute to his good friend Benjamin Mendy, number 22, following Mendy's right ACL rupture. Kylian is currently with the French men's national team, preparing for their World Cup qualifiers against Bulgaria and Belarus. More controversially, due to a mistake in Mbappe's paperwork, his loan move will likely count towards financial fair play this season. That's bad news for PSG. If that ends up being the case, expect a fire sale at PSG in January in order to raise some funds and avoid UEFA sanctions. Someone's getting a cheap Julian Draxler for Christmas.
I would say so. Or a very cheap Angel Di Maria.
Yeah.
Scott Friedman scouting Emery Moore, 20-year-old Turk. Actually, that doesn't help, though. Because if you sell them for cheap, then you're not making any money back.
No, they need to be selling for expensive.
China is getting an expensive Angel Di Maria. Scott Friedman scouting Emery Moore, 20-year-old Turkish winger for Celta Vigo. Oof, right, Scott. 0 starts, 4 appearances, 0 goals, 0 assists, 1 yellow. Enough said. The transfer to Celta Vigo has yet to yield results.
Justin Hansen is scouting Frank Kessier, the 20-year-old Ivorian centre midfielder for Milan. Is it Kessier or is it Kessie? I feel like we get corrected either way.
Oh, either way we'll get corrected,
I've said both
so it's fine. Yeah.
Frank the Tank continues, I prefer Frank the Tank, continues to be a regular starter for Milan in both Serie A and the Europa League. In league play, Frank converted a penalty in a 2-0 win over Spal, and added an assist that led to the decisive goal in a 2-1 win over Udinese. In the Europa League, Frank added an assist from the run of play in a 5-1 thumping of Austria Vienna.
Thumping indeed. Ryan Marzak scouting Pione Sisto, 22-year-old Danish attacker for Celta Vigo. Pione kept his hot streak going, scoring another goal in Celta's 3-3 draw with Girona over the weekend. That's 3 goals in his last 4 games. Unfortunately, says Ryan, his outstanding form was was not good enough to earn a call-up to the Netherlands national team for their upcoming World Cup qualifiers. That's correct, but that's because he's Danish. He was called up to the Denmark national team.
Yeah, but I feel like if Pianicisto tried harder, he could get a call-up to a national team that he's not eligible for.
That's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pianicisto's Danish, and he's in the national team squad, right?
Yep. I think, he was in the squad for these World Cup qualifiers. Yep.
All right. So, Ryan Marzak, check the Danish squad next time, not the Dutch squad. Final report is from Axel Romain, scouting Nathaniel Chalobah, the 22-year-old English central midfielder for Watford. Okay, I'm worried about this because I know Chalobah was in the England squad recently and was not this time. Mm-hmm. After starting the first 5 matches of the season, Chalobah suffered a fractured kneecap in training before their match against Swansea. He has undergone a successful surgery, but will likely be out for about 3 months.
Yep.
Ouch.
So I'm guessing he won't be playing in these World Cup qualifiers then.
No,
Shot
he
in the dark.
won't. But that's rough because he was having a good season from what we'd seen, right?
Mm-hmm. It's also rough for Watford because he was very important to that central midfield pairing that was having such success.
Okay, so October, that means October, November. So it's probably back in January-ish. Yeah, and then so he's back for the second half of the season.
So he'll miss the fixture crunch and be fresh just in time as everyone else is really, really tired.
He'll get to watch a lot of Christmas telly in England, though.
Well, that's good.
So there's that. All right. Thank you to Joshua, Kevin, William, Craig, Josh, Russell, Corey, Beth, Alex, Scott, Justin, Ryan, Axel. Oh, I was off form there. That was more stumbling than usual.
It's all right.
Thank you to everybody for the scouting reports. If you'd like to join the TSS Scouting Network, it is totalsoccershow.com/join. That's how you sign up. You can be an active scout where we assign you a player, or you can be a silent scout, which is where we don't assign you a player. We encourage people, if you're not interested in scouting, you do want to support the show, sign up, click Silent Scout. You'll still be supporting the show, and we'll appreciate it very, very much.
That we will, my friend.
Okay, Taylor, you are at a wedding Friday night.
I am indeed.
Which means you will not be available for quick take, hot take duties.
No.
Luckily, I found a fill-in. It's an exciting guest who I think will have always has an interesting opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to reveal who it is until we do that, but I'm going to record a quick take, hot take immediately after the final whistle of USA Panama Friday night. Then we'll be back in studio, in office, because they're the same room, Saturday morning to do a rewatch and our deep review of USA Panama.
That'll work for me. Yes, sir.
I was half telling listeners, half double checking with you.
That was happening. The plan,
yep. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again after USA Panama.